So we think bigger is better. We think that that's, I don't know, what we just make up in our head and what we see on social media, that the bigger you are, the better it is. But the bigger you are, the farther along in business, the bigger team you have, the more clients you have to have the systems and the infrastructure in order. Well, hello there, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Female Empowered. I'm your host, Krista Gurka. I am going to try to sound a little more upbeat. I've been listening to my podcast back when I walk my dog, Duncan, and I've noticed in some of them I sound a little like blah, 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 blah. So I hope this doesn't come across as like really weird, but I'm going to try to sound a little more upbeat because nobody wants to listen to someone that's going to make them fall asleep. Am I right? Thank you for joining me for another episode here at Female Empowered. I'm super excited that you're here, and I'm really excited about our topic today. So we're going to talk about new levels, new devils, and what you can expect at each level of revenue in your fitness business. Basically, like, you know, that phrase, more money, more problems, more money, more problems. That sometimes happens. So I think there's a lot of things that, especially for us as business owners, that most of us did not come from an MBA. We don't understand necessarily business and the trajectory of business and the phases of business. And so we think bigger is better. We think that that's, I don't know, what we just make up in our head and what we see on social media, that the bigger you are, the better it is. But the bigger you are, the farther along in business, the bigger team you have, the more clients you have to have the systems and the infrastructure in order to sustain that business growth, right? So it would be like if you had a 1-bedroom apartment or a studio apartment, and then you got married, and then you got a dog or two, and then you started having kids, like eventually you would outgrow that container. And sometimes that's what happens in business. We outgrow the container or the business model in which we are currently living. And those are some of the things that make us feel burnt out and overwhelmed and stressed and hustling all the time. We need to get a bigger pot in which to live in. All right. And we need to replant the soil around us and make sure that that's healthier. And not everyone wants to do that. And that's perfectly fine, because bigger does come with more expenses. The bigger your team is, the more you have to manage, the more of a leader you have to be. And those come with their own set of challenges. So while, yes, more revenue can be the goal for someone, that doesn't have to be the goal for everyone, right? Because you can be generating, I'll tell you this right now, you can generate 7 figures, even 8 figures, and still not be profitable. I want to say that again. You can be a 7-figure business owner, you can be an 8-figure business owner, and still not be profitable. I have mentored and I have seen and I have worked with, and I know many business owners that have a home studio, generate $300,000 in revenue, and take home $200,000 in profits. And then I know people that generate $3.5 million of revenue, all right, and take home $100,000 in profit. So just because you reach a certain revenue number does not mean that you're profitable. And oftentimes I say that sometimes it's not sustainable to stay at that rate unless you have these certain businesses, unless you're in a container that can sustain that growth. All right, you have an infrastructure to support you. So what I'm going to talk to you about today are what happens at each different level of business growth. Okay, because business growth, business ownership I talk about 4 different levels and 4 different phases that we typically see in our industry. Okay, so number 1 is what I call ideation. Then you go to infancy, adolescence, and maturity. All right, so ideation is basically when we're thinking about starting a business. So now you're a technician, you're a physical therapist, you work for somebody else. Now you're like, I wonder if I could do this on my own. I see a better way to do it. I want more freedom in my business. I want more flexibility. I want to do things my way. If you're anything like me, like I didn't play well with others. I never really have, right? I don't like to be told what to do. I like to do things the way that I want to do them. And that was one of the ways that I was like, I just want to do them this way. And it's probably one of the reasons my partnership didn't work out when I first started my business. But anyway, so this is ideation. You might even be in a side hustle right now where you're working full time for somebody else and you're kind of experimenting with taking on a few extra clients or teaching at a Pilates studio or teaching at a yoga studio and thinking like, I'm interested in something more, right? And so that's ideation. All right. From ideation, we move into the infancy stage of our business. And infancy is the startup phase. This is when we've decided to really go all in on our business, or at least we're 75 to 80% in our actual business. And maybe we're doing 25% work somewhere else just to keep a stable paycheck coming in. All right. But when we are in this stage of business, we are the technicians, right? We are still what's the word I'm looking for? Delivering the service. So we are the Pilates instructor. We're teaching 5, 10, 15, 20 classes a week. We are the physical therapist. We are treating the clients. We are the front desk person. We are the social media person. We are the marketing department. We are the finance department. Right now, we may have a few people on our team, maybe 1 or 2 Pilates instructors that teach a couple classes a week, or 1 yoga instructor that comes in, or maybe we have a front desk person or a virtual assistant. But for the most part, we are doing everything, right? So in this stage of business ownership, the owner spends time, doing all of the things. So what happens is if she gets sick, injured, if she wants vacation, if she needs time off to spend with her kids, if she wants to go, out to lunch with her mom or her partner or whatever the case may be, the business really ceases to run. Okay. So if someone gets sick, for example, and needs to take 2 weeks off, they need to close their business for 2 weeks. Okay. So at this stage of business, oftentimes we have more time than money because we're really still growing. We're trying to figure things out. All right. We need to realize that if we want to have a business that's more sustainable, where we can take time off and not lose revenue, we need to grow into the next stage of business. Okay. The business owners really feel like their personal identity, their personal worth is completely tied into their business identity as well. And they feel they need to be in order for their business to survive. They're returning emails at midnight, right? They're doing documentation on the weekend. They're coming in at 7 a.m. and then coming back at 8 p.m. They're cleaning the studio. They're filling in for staff members if they call in sick, if you have a team, right? So little by little, your hard work starts to pay off. You're starting to gain some momentum, but at some point you realize in this phase that it's not sustainable unless you get some help. Because in this phase, in infancy, you are the business. You are trading time for work for money. Okay. So you spend your time to do the work to get the money. You reach a point off stage of your business where now you're overwhelmed. Someone's like, you need to get help. This is time to move on. And this is this phase in a small business cycle where you move into the next stage of business, which we call adolescence. Okay. It's literally, so this is not a joke. Like in infancy, you're learning how to crawl, you're learning how to walk, you stumble, you fall, but you get back up. Everything is new to you. Like if you think of babies or putting things in their mouth, they're like, ooh, shiny object. This is infancy, right? This is the stage of their business in infancy. Okay. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know your ass from your elbow, and that's okay. Most of us were in this phase, right? Now, when we move on to adolescence, think of adolescents. They're teenagers. They're getting overwhelmed. They're growing into themselves. They want more independence, right? But they don't really know what to do with all this new growth. So they start to hire people because they need help, right? You start to delegate tasks that overwhelm you. Like, I don't want to do this, so you do it. However, oftentimes we just know that we need the help, or we heard a guru tell us that we need to delegate. And so we just do that, but we don't have any systems set up. Most people in this business, in this phase of business, are like, you're a PT, great. You're a Pilates studio, great. Go teach that class. Because that's what we did, right? When we came on, when we started our business, we didn't have people telling us what to do. So that's in turn how we lead and manage. It takes an entirely different skill set to manage and lead a team than it does to treat a patient, teach a class, do a personal training session, et cetera, et cetera. Two completely different skill sets, some of which we may have and some of which we do not have. So what happens in this stage? We bring these people on. We don't really have a strong onboarding process, because what the fuck is an onboarding process, right? And so they should just be able to figure it out. They should be able to read my mind and do it exactly like I do. But I wish that would happen. But let me tell you, ladies, it's not realistic. And so what happens is we usually are like, oh, I hired these people to make my life easier. And now I find myself just going back in and doing it myself because it's just easier to do it myself. We jump right back into the role of technician. Okay. We don't set clear boundaries, and it's not your fault. It's not our fault. It's not your fault. It's nobody told us what to do. So we're just like the blind leading the blind. We're like, okay, we hire people. We hired somebody, great, go do your job. We didn't teach them really how we want them to do their job, because it's different. What you do in your studio might be different than what I do in my studio. I have a certain, set of expectations, and you may have a different set of expectations. All right. This is the stage that most business owners get stuck. And I see it happen at $100,000 revenue mark. I see it happen at $250,000. I see it happen at $500,000, even at 7 figures. This is where business owners get stuck. Okay. They find this, like, they're in this kind of purgatory, and they're like, do I push beyond this stage? Do I get down into this discomfort, this really hard stage of pushing past my comfort zone, where we're pushed to the limits and beyond? And really, we need to sit down and decide, are we going to push beyond this discomfort and level up into the next stage in business? Or are we going to scale back a little bit? Because business owners, this is not where you want to stay. This purgatory is not sustainable. You will be stuck in this stage, and you will be at burnout before you know it, if you do not make the decision to either scale back a little bit into like late infancy, early adolescence, to set the proper systems in place, or grow beyond this survival mode into the CEO, the leader, the manager that your company needs to be in the maturity stage. All right. This kind of adolescent stage is really like survival mode. And it sucks to be in this, because you're now playing defense instead of offense. Right. And so at least this was my experience. And this is the experience of many, many, many business owners that come to me and they're like, I just feel stuck. I can't get out of this. And it's not your fault, right? You're stuck because you just don't know the next place to go. It's kind of like these analogies, like if you've ever been rock climbing, right? And you get to this point that you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know where to put my next grip. And what happens oftentimes, if you've ever been rock climbing, usually someone at the base can guide you and say, okay, you're going to go up on your left about 11 o'clock. Okay. That's what I do as a business mentor when people are in this adolescence phase. I try to help them, guide them to the next phase of business ownership, which usually gets harder and harder as you move up the mountain, right? So we really, like, this is what we do in our FitBiz Foundations program, where we find a lot of people in the infancy and adolescent stage. And what we try to do is get them to move into the final stage of business ownership, which is maturity. Okay. Now, at the maturity level of your business, you're really looking at the business from an entrepreneurial perspective. You start to see yourself as an entrepreneur. A lot of times in the infancy and adolescent stage, people consider themselves business owners. They own a business. When you grow into the maturity stage, you're really looking at yourself as an entrepreneur. You birthed this thing. You are an entrepreneur. Just because you didn't invent it doesn't mean you're not an entrepreneur. Okay. To be in the maturity stage, what you need to have is a clearly defined vision, mission, and values, which I think it was like 3 podcasts ago we talk about. So if you didn't understand, if you didn't check out that episode, go back and listen to that episode. So you have a clearly defined vision, mission, you have accountability standards and a clearly defined set of expectations for your team, and you have a vision for which drives the business forward. You have strategies, you have a 1-year plan, you have a 3-year plan, you're developing your 10-year plan. Okay. At this point in business, the entrepreneur has gained enough wisdom through going through that infancy stage, going through that adolescent stage, and really understanding the view of the business as an entity completely separate from themselves, from herself. Okay. So I now am in the maturity stage of my business. I no longer see the success or failure of the business and it's no longer linked to my personal self-worth. I am a worthy person, regardless of whether my business fails or succeeds. I have created time, flexibility, sustainability, profitability, and the freedom that I want in my life by getting to this maturity stage of my business. Okay. Most entrepreneurs in this stage have designed, created, and grown a business that is fully functional and built to last without her. She has moved from manager to entrepreneur, and she is overseeing both the managers and the technicians at this point. She's truly the visionary of the company. Now, if you've reached this stage of business ownership, of your entrepreneurial journey, now your challenge is to grow your business into the future, not just for ourselves, but for our team, for our employees. All right. Now, here's what I'm going to say. Not all businesses want to reach the maturity stage. Not all business owners, not all women out there want to have that type of responsibility. And that is perfectly fine. There's a ton of people that want to stay at a more of a growth rate of adolescence, but you should still have the maturity mindset, meaning you should still have a clearly defined vision, mission, and values. All right. You don't necessarily need to have like a solid growth and scale plan. If you want to stay at $250,000 in revenue and have a small team, that's amazing. But what you don't want is to be in the survival mode, because that sucks. So you can still be at a maturity level of your business with a lower revenue, without a huge team. But as long as you have systems and processes and are not feeling burnout, then that's sustainable, regardless of what the revenue number is. So let me give you a few little examples of like to help you decide or figure out where it is that you are currently in your business and where it is that you want to go in your business. Okay. So in infancy, when you're really the technician, what's happening is the mindset really is, I trade time to do the work to earn the money, right? That's what we kind of figured out. This is where most of us start out. We trade time for money. especially because we are in a service-based, industry. It would be the same for like a hair salon, right? Or a manicurist. Like they have to spend time to do the manicures or to cut your hair, right? It's a service industry. Now, what you have to do during what you think in this time is you have to spend the time, you have to work hard to earn the money. So in order to get more money, you feel like you have to work harder. You have to give up more time, and time is finite. We only have a certain amount of time. So what happens to you when you have no more time? When you have no more time to give, you're going to be at capacity, which is fine, right? But if you want to grow beyond that and stop trading time for money, then you need to start thinking like an entrepreneur, in which time equals equity equals freedom. So now I spend the time, I build the equity in my business, right? And I get free of the business. So in other words, I can now hire people to trade the time for money. And I get more freedom as the entrepreneur, right? And then little by little, people in on your team can grow into different phases of the business. They can grow from technician to manager to leader, right? And everyone can create more equity for themselves and more freedom in their schedule. So the more time I spend, the more equity I get, which actually gives me more freedom. So I in turn have to spend less time. So if you've heard me talk about my story, I'm the founder and CEO of Pilates in the Grove, a multi-location Pilates and physical therapy practice in Miami. I now go into my physical locations less than 10 hours a week if I choose to. I teach one class a week because I actually like teaching, and my staff is all full time. And so I work on Saturdays because they all work 5 days a week and some work 6 days a week. So until we get another team member in place, I work Saturdays. It's fine. I actually enjoy it. Go in, it's quiet. And I see clients on Wednesdays or patients. Okay. So I see maybe, and most of those are my like professional athletes that I see when they're in the off season. So I see, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 patients, and I teach one class. So that's 5 hours, really. That's what I spend inside the studio. The rest of the time I'm doing visionary stuff. I'm doing this podcast. I'm helping other business owners. I'm creating content for our social media platforms. I am designing and developing our on-demand services, our revenue streams. I'm networking. I'm meeting with people, right? I'm leading the leaders of the team. Okay. So where do you find yourself on this continuum? Where do you want to get to on this continuum? Do you want to get your business to the maturity phase where you have more time and freedom? Then we need to move through these other phases, right? We need to move from one phase to the next. Now, in my Beyond the Movement programs, right, business mentoring programs, I have resources for you regardless of where you are on this continuum. So if you are still in the ideation phase, or maybe a side hustle, working less than 5 hours a week in your business, okay, then checking out my resource library on my website is probably a great place for you. There's a bunch of free resources out there. There's some free masterclasses. There's some very low cost masterclasses, less than $20. Okay. So if you're still in the ideation phase and want to learn more, visit my website at kristagurka.com. You can check out kristagurka.com/store, or you can check out kristagurka.com/fitness business resources, which has some resources and done for you stuff. So if you're in the infancy stage and you're really doing all of the things and you don't have, the money to get an attorney, et cetera, you can check out my done for you resources and templates. Okay. I have a done for you resources and templates portal on my website at kristagurka.com/fitness business resources. Or there's also like on the top of the navigation bar on the website, you'll see resources and templates. There's things from like who to hire first, what to do in your first 90 days with a hire, and a complete email guide, all the email templates I use in my business, all the contracts I use in my business, a marketing playbook, right? So you can go on there and get access to some of these things that are going to save you some time and mistakes. Okay. Also, if you're in the infancy, moving into the adolescence phase of your business, then you are ready to join my FitBiz Foundations program. Okay. It's a wonderful 12-month mentorship program along with other female business owners that really teaches foundational business practices. So how to get clear on your mission, vision, and values, how to design a marketing strategy that is right for you and your business, how to put together a successful hiring and onboarding process when you start to grow that team, right? So if you're interested in the FitBiz Foundations program, if you're finding yourself in the survival mode or in this growth phase and you just don't know what to do, right? You cannot plan for what you cannot envision. If you've never been there, it's hard to envision where you can go. Visit kristagurka.com/fitbizfoundations. All right. We are always enrolling in this program. And it's a wonderful, wonderful community filled with amazing women. We just had, I'm going to feature one of them on the podcast soon, who went from ideation and infancy to her first $10,000 month, going all in on her business in 60 days. Okay. Now, it doesn't happen that way all the time. She was able, after joining FitBiz Foundations, within the first 60 days, she was able to leave her contract job, of which she was working 25, 30 hours a week. And she was able to do her first $10,000 a month in her own business, which means she would break the 6-figure mark after 12 months. All right. She's an amazing story. Check out her podcast episode that's going to air, I think, in a week or two. All right. Now, if you are in the survival mode and you're ready to get the hell out of there, because I'll tell you, it sucks in that phase. I know it. I was in it for a while. It almost broke me. If you're ready to enter the maturity phase of your business, then you are ready to get into the inner circle. So if you're ready to get to do the work to grow into the maturity stage of your business in the next 6 to 18 months, where you are now no longer trading time for money, all right, where you are the visionary, the CEO, where you are leading the leaders and you're growing into a phase that will sustain you for the next 3, 5, 10 years, then the inner circle is where you want to be. Okay. We will open enrollment for the inner circle probably again in September. All right. I can't remember when the time of this is going to air. I think it is going to air in September. So we're probably open for enrollment now. Once again, you can visit my website, kristagurka.com. You can check out the Work With Me page, and we should have an application there that you can apply for. All right. So I would love to hear your insight, your feedback on this episode, where you think you are on this continuum. You can also schedule a discovery call with me. I do this very frequently. You can go to kristagurka.com/discovery, schedule a free 15, 20-minute call with me, and we'll try to figure out where you are in your business, where you want to go, if I may be the right person to help you get you there. And if not, I really have a ton of resources and a huge network that I can refer you to. I can, send you to someone who specializes in online business, development, and I have a great network. I refer to a ton of people because if I don't think I'm the right, it's the same thing if you come to me for physical therapy. If I'm not the right practitioner to get you to where you want to be, I will refer you to someone who I know is. So if I'm not the right business mentor to get you to where you want to be, then I will refer you to someone who I think might be a better fit for you. All right. Okay, ladies, that was all. I hope my voice was better this time and I was more upbeat. I love talking about this stuff. I love chatting about business because I've learned so much going from infancy to adolescence to maturity. And if you remember adolescence, it was a tough place to be. Like, I don't think I would go back to being an adolescent, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old for all the money in the world. All right. So it's tough to be in that survival mode stage. I like being in the maturity stage. It took me a little while to get there. It was uncomfortable growth to get there. But now that I'm there, I love it. I have to just say, and it's available to you. You can be here if you want. There's plenty of room at the table for you. I would love for you to come sit with me, pull up a chair, and I would love to be the person to help you get there. Now, that's all I got for you for now. If you are interested in checking out my female CEO summit that is now open for enrollment, is where it's a 2-day live event where you're in a room full of other high achieving females in the fitness and wellness and healthcare industry. I invite you to check out my landing page. Go check out the website where you can learn more about the CEO Summit. You can visit kristagurka.com. All right. We're also going to link it up in the show notes. We are limiting attendance to 20 women business owners. All right. My inner circle group will be there. They get to go for free as being a member of the inner circle. My FitBiz community will be there. And we get to do, it's 2 days of deep diving into your business and networking and, just spending some time with other female business owners. I have copywriters coming in. I have financial advisors coming in. I have my CFO attending, an HR specialist, all of these things where we get to deep dive into your business for 48 hours, plus network and mingling. It's just a great all-time weekend. Last year was our first annual one, and it was just amazing. It was amazing. So if you want to check it out, I think it's kristagurka.com/CEO Summit 2022. You can also DM me over on Instagram if you're interested. We will be linking everything else up in the show notes, and I hope you attend. I would love to meet you in person. All right. There was a lot of CTAs in that in this episode. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed myself, but I just like to share with you all the things that you guys can do to move your business forward and be really excited and feel energized and reinvigorated. So that's all I got. Until next time, my friends, bye for now. Have a wonderful day or night or weekend whenever you're listening to this. Hasta la vista.